Thank you for taking the time with us. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you in person. I do not share my colleagues' skepticism of a renewed nuclear agreement with Iran, in part because the whole world has watched how difficult it is to craft a Western response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, given Russia's status as a nuclear power. And I simply cannot imagine why we would wish for a policy that will allow Iran to be weeks, maybe months away from a nuclear weapon, given all of their malevolent activity in the Middle East. What about the last 2 months has been an advertisement that we would be better off if more of our adversaries had nuclear weapons? And I appreciate the clarification you made to Senator Romney's question. Because it is true, we have tried the alternative. We have indeed attempted to apply significant costs on the Iranian economy and through President Trump's maximum pressure campaign. And in fact, the result was not that Iran came to the table on all of their other behaviors in the region. It was not that they held firm on the commitments that they had made in the JCPOA. It was, in fact, that they moved faster towards a potential nuclear weapon. They accelerated their research program. And so I want to maybe ask you one more sort of question to level set where we are today. You have stated, I think, very effectively that the maximum pressure campaign did not, in fact, have the effect of constraining Iran's nuclear weapon program. But for my colleagues that have significant concerns, rightly so, about Iran's support for terrorist organizations, for regional proxies, the money they put into their ballistic missile program, is there any evidence that during the period of time in which we have been out of the nuclear agreement, during the period of time in which we have applied these significant sanctions, including sanctions on the IRGC, that Iran has lessened their support for terrorist organizations or proxy organizations, or lessened the amount of money that they put into their ballistic missile program?
Senator, to the contrary, no. What we've seen is two things. First, during the period of time when the original agreement was being negotiated, go back to 2012, through its entry into force and the time when the Trump administration pulled out, 2012 to 2018, there were virtually no attacks on American presence in the Middle East. When we pulled out of the agreement, when we imposed the foreign terrorist organization designation on the IRGC, and when Soleimani was killed, and no one is shedding any tears for his demise, but I'm just stating the facts, when those things happened, the attacks on our forces, on our personnel, on our people went up dramatically. In fact, from 2019 to 2020, they went up 400%. So we've seen that effect. Similarly, and it's an unfortunate fact of life that Iran is willing to dedicate what resources it has to supporting its military, to supporting its various tools of destabilization and terror, including the IRGC Quds Force, irrespective of what its revenues are from other sources. And so we've seen sustained support for those forces even during maximum pressure. Again, we share the same objectives. The question is, how do we most effectively reach those objectives? That's what we're concerned with.
Well, thank you for that response. And I think you will find many of us on this committee very supportive of your efforts to re-enter that agreement. Let me turn to one other topic, and that is the topic of human rights. The assault on Ukrainian democracy, I think, has elevated the need for us to be incredibly consistent between our words and our actions on supporting human rights and democracy. You and I have had a number of conversations about the pace of reform in Egypt, a country that enjoys more direct U.S. military support than almost any other in the world prior to the war in Ukraine. Buried inside your budget request is a curious proposal. That is a proposal to de-link human rights conditions from military aid to Egypt. I worry about the message that this would send to Sisi, but also the world. They have made tepid progress, even when presented with fairly minimalist requests for reforms. And I wonder why this would be a moment that the administration would be asking to separate the money we send to Egypt for military support from our human rights requests and our human rights work in Egypt.
Senator, first, I really appreciate your focus on human rights. Indeed, it's central to President Biden's foreign policy, and that applies across the world, including when it comes to Egypt. Let me just say quickly a couple of things. First, Egypt is a vital partner for us. It's a vital partner in trying to sustain and advance stability in the Middle East, to combat terrorism. It played a critical role last year when tensions rose dramatically in Gaza. And it's played an important role now in trying to keep things in check as well. So in many ways, it's a vital partner. It's also an important economic partner for us. At the same time, that does not divorce from our policy and our approach the need to focus on human rights and the concerns that we have about the Egyptian approach when it comes to civil society, when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, political detentions, abuses, et cetera. I have engaged President al-Sisi directly on this at some length, including the first meeting that we had. We continue to meet and engage with human rights defenders, with civil society. Last year, we signed the Human Rights Council statement at the UN expressing our grave concerns the first time since 2014. And we reprogrammed some of the foreign military financing this past year because Egypt did not meet some of the objectives that we set out in terms of making progress on human rights. And that will continue to be the case going forward. It is, however, important to us to have maximum flexibility in being able to deal with this and deal with this effectively. I'd also say that going back to the conversation on Russia and Ukraine, this is a critical time, too, in the relationship with a number of countries, particularly countries that may be reconsidering their own relationships and potential dependencies on Russia. They're seeing how Russian military equipment is performing or not performing in Ukraine. They're seeing growing challenges to Russia being able to sustain and ultimately export its military equipment. They're making different decisions about the future. That presents a strategic opportunity for us, one we want to make sure that we also have flexibility to take advantage of. But I completely share your focus on and concern about human rights, including in Egypt. It will remain a central part of our policy, even as we work to strengthen what is a vital partnership for us.
Thank you.
Well, very briefly, just count me amongst those who think it would be unwise at this moment to delink our human rights conditions from military aid. This is a country that still has more political arrests than Russia does. 60,000 people have been arrested for political crimes in Egypt. That's a stunning number. And as to your point, finally, about countries that are rethinking their traditional association with Russia. Senator Shaheen, Tillis, and I are just back from a trip to the Balkans. I think Assistant Secretary Donfried is there this week. Tremendous opportunities in the Balkans to try to shift alliances and allegiances there. Bosnia is a place where there is a rapid deterioration of the security situation. We have to pay close attention there, but many opportunities around Russia's periphery to convince folks that it's time
Thank you.
for
The
stop sitting on
senator's
two
time
chairs.
has